What's up, everybody? It's Gleason,
And it's Omari.
and today's episode we have Eric from Backtrack. It's an awesome guy, awesome store, lots of vintage and some newer like streetwear and everything. He dives deep into his business and how COVID's affected it. It's an awesome episode today.
Yeah, you don't want to miss it. He gave like some great advice and great tips for anybody who's wanting to start business. It's like free game, y'all.
Exactly, like this is not an episode you want to miss. So we're gonna roll the intro and we're get straight into it.
Let's go. We spit knowledge that we put to the test. Come get it if you're young and hungry for success. For success. For success.
What's up, everybody? We are here with the West Coast Vintage King, Mr. Eric, a.k.a. Backtrack, a.k.a. the Bus God. What's going on, man?
Man, I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you guys for having me on.
Of course. Well, I know we've been trying to get you on here for a while, and just on our side, we've been slacking. That's why I got Omari to kind of light that fire back under it. So I wanted to get you on here as soon as we could, because I know we've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah, it's funny. When you reached out, I mean, it was, I feel like almost a year ago, and I was just like, yeah, I'm down. And then, obviously, man, life happens and things happen, and so no apologies needed, man.
Heck yeah. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. Who are you besides the Vintage King and Bus God? I just gave you those two titles, so you can use that later.
Brand new titles. No, so my name is Eric Brown Jr. and I own a small little vintage boutique here in San Diego. And we built the store inside of an old school bus. And probably one of the main reasons why I even decided to build the store inside school bus is because I saw your sister's bus like over 2 years ago.
Did you start it from after hers? I thought yours was before hers.
No, I mean, I didn't even really have the idea to build it inside of a school bus until I saw her. So what happened with me is when I was finishing up college and I knew I wanted to open up, a shop and do, vintage full time, I started looking for a storefront. I started like just here. I live in Pacific Beach here in San Diego. It's kind of where I'm from, where I grew up. And I just kept striking out on trying to find a storefront. And so I was in a couple of other like Facebook groups for like people, mostly women who own boutiques.
Yeah.
And so I started seeing that like women were like building their stores inside these buses. And so I started following some hashtags on Instagram, and one of them was mobile boutique. And as I'm scrolling through, because I follow that hashtag, I saw this blonde girl with this big giant pink school bus, and I was like, yo, that is crazy. And I was like, yo, I could do that. And I remember even like just after I had bought the bus like a week after I started looking for it, I remember like being in the bus and I was about to do like demo. I was about to start renovating. I remember I sent her like a DM, and I was like, yo, you don't know me, but I found your bus on Instagram, and it gave me the confidence to like buy my own bus, and so thank you. I probably wouldn't have this bus if I never saw your bus.
Now your bus.
And then like, yeah, and then she's so kind. She was just like, oh, that's so cool. And then she ended up like starting to like buy stuff for her, started to buy stuff for Blake, and it's kind of just been like bus buddies ever since.
Heck yeah, man. Dude, that's what, like, she put me onto your stuff, and the first thing I bought was, I'm on the same bus as Omari, pun intended, is, I like, there are so many things that I've tried to get off of yours, like, either, like, on Instagram or, like, at your website, and it's gone as soon as I'm like, okay, that's fine. I guess I didn't need to spend the money today. But the one thing I'm glad I got is I got that red jacket from you.
Dude, that Tommy bootleg jacket?
Yeah, but it's too small now, but I still wear it just because it looks so good. Like, I just like push my shoulders back to keep my arms in it. I don't want to get rid of it.
Now it's a nice layered piece. You can put a hoodie on underneath and be.
Yeah, because in Alabama, in South Alabama, you definitely need layers.
I remember that, man. Wow, that's crazy.
Dude,
yeah, and then even like I had bought some. I always buy like some, or I try to get some of the Travis Scott releases. And I, when he did the Nike SB release, but he dropped the merch too with like the upside down logo.
Yeah.
I have bought a couple of pieces, and I remember Taylor had bought the hoodie from me for Blake, and he was all bummed because he thought, they were all sold out.
Yeah, yeah.
And then lo and behold, she bought it and like surprised him. So it's always been good, man. Like you have to excuse the noise going outside my office. I don't know what it is, but yeah, no, man. Like it's been really interesting. 2020 has been weird and I think just for everybody, and
Oh yeah.
but we've just been trying to adapt like everybody else.
Yeah, I got you.
Would you say being uh like I know you have the bus and like you're online, so like with this, did you see your online picking up a lot? Like your you know traffic through online, like did it pick up a lot?
So back in March, we went into this record shop in this little trendy area in San Diego called North Park. And my boy Eric owns this record shop, and we had did a pop up there for like a weekend, and it went really great. And so him and I were just kind of talking. We're like, well, what if we do like a long term thing where like half the shop is like vinyl records, and the other side is like vintage and sneakers and stuff like that. And because the pop up went so well, it gave us kind of the confidence to go ahead and do that. So we had set off to start this like 3-month journey of being in this long-term pop-up, and so we had our grand opening for the long-term pop-up on March 4th, and then on March 14th, 17th, we had to shut down. And
That's
in those
crazy.
in those 2 weeks, we had done more sales than like I had ever done in a month, like with the business prior. We had so many people coming into the shop because one, it's in a great location, but also like we got I'd say we got dope stuff. But then people were like bringing stuff to like to sell, so we were always having new inventory coming in the shop too. And and then the city or the state really was like, yo, no more in-person shopping.
You
So
done?
yeah, I mean, so outside of like a random story sale here and there, I had a website, but that was more so that like, if somebody wanted to Google backtrack, that there would be a place to go to, and there was like items here and there, but it
Right.
it wasn't really built out to really handle online. So once I was just kind of sitting there like thinking like, like what are we gonna do? Like we're obviously not gonna be in this pop up anymore. But I this is all I do. So
Right.
I got to figure it out. So I just pretty much said, okay, I'm just going to commit to like building out the website. And I knew the kind of look that I wanted to go for and kind of how I wanted that shopping experience to be. So I went to, my camera shop here and I picked up, white backdrop paper, and I picked up some softbox lights for my photos. And I just doing a lot of research in the same way that I did a bunch of research before I bought the bus. I was going through tons and tons of just brands that I loved, their websites, whether it was like the hundreds or like other vintage pages, what I liked and what I didn't like. And I said, all right, this is the look that I want to go for, and I'm just going to take the time. There's a reason why a lot of people who sell vintage don't have a proper website, and it's because it's a pain in the ass. Like everything that we sell for the most part is a one of one.
Right.
If I'm, you know, uh, if I sell, I don't know, shoes, I've got 25 of those sneakers and a whole bunch of different sizes. So I'm just photographing that item once, and it's gonna live in this listing with 20 items behind it. But that's not the case for a vintage item. I need to take 3 or 4 or 5 photos depending on the item, and then it's just a one of one. So it's like I have this like love and hate thing with it because I'm so happy when an item sells on the website, but I'm also like pissed off because I'm like, it was so much work to like
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
especially the ones that are gone just like that.
Yeah, you got to keep it
oh my
updated.
god, like yeah, like, and I don't, you guys can see my website. There's nothing on there that's like gross or wrinkled. So everything gets steamed first. It gets lint rolled. It gets like laid
Yeah.
out and perfectly, set up. And it's just the work isn't hard for the website. The work is just tedious, and you're
Yeah.
just doing it over. I'll spend like 6 hours if I have like a big inventory drop where I'm just gonna do photos for the day, and then the following day I'm just editing those photos, and
Yeah.
then the following day I'm just making those listings in the website. So there again, like I say, there's a reason that places like Round Two didn't make a website until they were pretty much forced to when the pandemic happened, because it's a lot. There's a reason they have a whole online team that all they do
Yeah.
is just online stuff, because it's it's really tough. And then there's a whole nother animal when you actually have in-person sales too. It's like, do I mix my online inventory with my in-store inventory? How do I make sure those systems talk to each other? And make sure that if something's sold on the floor, it gets pulled out from the online inventory. So you can tackle it from a whole bunch of different ways. Um, Luckily, again, for us, we're on the smaller side, so it's really easy to manage. But as you grow, it can definitely be stressful.
Yeah. Do you use Shopify for the website, or do you use something else?
Yeah, I use Shopify. But when I first started the online store, I was using, Square, the credit card reader.
Yeah.
They had this like very beta version of an online um, kind of like selling website, kind of like Squarespace and Shopify, but it was through Square. And I was like, well, it makes sense to do that because I'm already using Square as my primary card reader. So let me go with them. What ended up happening was somebody scammed me. I had this like really dope like Larry Bird shirt. It was like $85, and I got another shirt as well. And so what the person did was they bought the shirts, they waited till the shirts arrived, and then they filed a claim with their credit card saying that they never received the shirts. So then the credit card company issued them a full return that came out of my pocket, and they ended up keeping the shirts. And I know they scammed me because as soon as like after the whole 30-day process was and the credit card company decided in their favor, I got an email that like I lost the claim or whatever. And then about 15 minutes later, they tried to make another large purchase on my website, the exact same people. And so of course I took that information and I said, look, they just tried to do it again. And they like, there's nothing we can do. It's out of our hands. And so after that, I was really, really frustrated. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to switch. I had heard better things about Shopify and things like their fraud detector, which is really, really great. And since I made the switch to Shopify, I've been nothing but happy. It's a better discount as far as the shipping discount you get, as well as like the big thing for me is that like fraud detector. So every transaction that comes through the website, it's got like a score attached to it based off of like, is the
Like how
address of
risky
the
it is
credit
and
card
everything.
doesn't match the shipping address, blase, blase, blase. So, but yeah, I mean, to answer your question, which was about the online store, we had really no infrastructure set up to start selling online until we were essentially forced to. But I mean, it's been great though. I mean, we've significantly done really, really well online since March. And I dragged my feet like for a few weeks on like, is things going to open back up? Is this even worth it? But it's for sure worth it. It's for sure worth it.
So what got you into the vintage in the first place?
Yeah. So when I was back when I was in the Navy, and I spent the bulk of my career like up in Seattle, and just as like a young dude, when I first got there, I would be bored. And like when you're young and you're in the military, there's just really like not a lot for you to do. And that base was really, really small. So I would always find myself going like down into the city in Seattle or driving around, finding garage sales and estate sales and warehouse sales and stuff like that. And I would find stuff and I would flip them on eBay, whether it was like cameras or clothes and things like that. And so it kind of always had this love for like finding old crap and selling it.
Yeah.
But when I moved back to San Diego in 2016, we have a really large scene of like swap meets and flea markets and just vintage clothes in general, because you can have a market, 50 weeks out of the year, because you're not really dealing with, weather like that, no snow, very little rain. So I saw that there was this really big market in, vintage clothes just here in general. So I would find stuff at the flea market and I would sell them, on eBay as well. But I just started seeing people like making their whole jobs like selling old t-shirts. And I was like, that's fun. I'm into that. That's what I already do. I said,
And where do I apply?
yeah, well, I was like, if I could just do that, like I could just make a living, selling old stuff, sign me up. So I would say that I pretty much I've been full-time reselling since like 2017, but starting the actual, Backtrack brand happened we launched April 29th of 2019.
So like, how old were you coming out of the Navy? Like when you, well, at the point where you realized you wanted to like do sell vintage clothes.
Yeah, well, I'm 29 now, but when I got out of the Navy, this was 2014. I went in 2010. I got out in 2014. So I was 23, and before I was like selling, vintage full time. While I was like during my last year in the Navy, I went to barber college. My family, I come from like a long line of barbers, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm getting out of the Navy, and I don't know what I want to do yet. I want to finish my degree, or at that point, really kind of, I only went to like a year of college prior, so I was pretty much starting over. But I was like, in the meantime, I want to give myself, you know, a way to make money while I'm out. So I got my barber's license so I could cut hair, and so um, I was working in my pops' shop back in Northeast Ohio, and I ended up opening like my first business, which was my own shop that was across town in like the downtown area of this
I thought you were
super
gonna
small
say
town.
across the street. I was like, dang, you take the
No,
pops out.
no, we technically, my dad, he owned two spaces, and the other space that was downtown, my grandmother used to own and work out of that shop, but she had
Yeah.
retired some years ago, so it was kind of just like vacant. And I was like, my dad was, bless his heart, but like he'd been cutting hair for a long time, and like, prices for a haircut like $12, like a deal, and I'm like, yo, like I don't do $12 haircut work. Like I can't, like, I'm not, I was like, Dad, like I really just want to have my own spot that, like, he had this huge like menu board with like 80 different services. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy, man. Like, like, so like, in my shop, I was like, if I ever got a chance to open up my own shop, one, it would look the way I wanted it to look, but also it just be simple. There's three things on the menu: haircut, shave, haircut and shave. Like haircut $20, shave was 35, and then like a haircut and a shave, you got like a deal, so it came
You
out
got that
cheaper.
bundle. Is that when he gets down to $12 right there?
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, I was like, man, I said, what's, let's say you raised your prices, Dad? And he was like, well, we raised them, 2 years ago. They were $11.
I'm not going to Ohio to get a haircut.
Yo, I was like, Dad, but like, I was like, this math doesn't make sense. I was like, it's less than minimum wage for you to do like a haircut, and sometimes you're spending an hour. I was like, that doesn't make sense, bro. Like, but like, there's a reason why like family-owned businesses don't usually like last the test of time, because it's hard working with your
Yeah.
family, right? Like you have different visions, you have different ideas, and a lot of times if you're from the younger generation, trying to, our parents are like very much like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there's nothing wrong with a car that works, but like I also, there's nothing wrong with having a car that doesn't have issues either. Like there's nothing wrong with like having a better car,
Yeah.
more efficient, that gets better gas. You're still gonna get you there. But yeah, so and so even still, while I was back in Ohio, I was still hitting up garage sales and things like that. So yeah, that was kind of like my first foray into like being a business owner, um, and having the responsibility of like. But it was crazy, dude. I mean, it's Northeast Ohio, the super small town. My rent for my whole space, for the space that I rented, was, I paid $180 a month
That's it.
for the whole space,
How
yo.
big was that space?
That's crazy.
How big was the space?
Yeah.
It was probably the size of like a one bed, like one bedroom inside of like a one bedroom apartment. I think it was something like, it was like 350 square feet, but I could fit three barber chairs in there.
Yeah.
Um,
Dang.
but really, it was just me, and I was at that, I was like, I didn't need to sit around all day, so I pretty much had a good wave of like clients. So I was appointment only. So I would go in and, you know, 18, 180 divided by $20, 9 haircuts. I'll do that in like, 2 days. So the rent's paid for in 2 days, and then everything else after that, is
Profit.
all for me. And but while I was in the Navy, because of my job, I was a military working dog handler. I had ended up hurting like my hands and like my forearms, and so I knew that like long term, I couldn't make a career out of holding clippers and scissors and shears for the rest of my life. And so when I ended up moving to San Diego to go to school, I was like, all right, let me make a change. And that's why I decided to pick a job that like didn't really require me to one be on my feet while I'm dealing with people.
Right.
But I mean, I'm kind of hindsight's 2020, right? Because I wouldn't want to be a barber in 2020 dealing with everything that they've had to deal with as far as health concerns
Hang on
and
one second. Hang on one
things
second.
like that. Yeah. But when I got out of the Navy, it was 2013. I was 23. Seems like forever ago.
Right. Um. So like, Gleason be back. He had to run off. But would you say like, was there ever? I'm sure there was. Was there ever a point where you wanted to give up, like with the as far as the business part, like selling business?
Yeah.
Was there ever a point you wanted to like just give up?
I don't. I wouldn't say I ever had like any point where I felt like I wanted to give up. But when COVID hit, it really challenged me to like reassess things. And I feel so naive because back then we were just like back in March, we're like, yeah, okay, like cool, we'll shut down for 3 or 4 weeks, and then this thing will pass over, we'll open back up, and everything will be straight. Clearly, that wasn't the case. But I don't think I felt like I wanted to give up, but I did at times question, like, man, like from an ethical standpoint, I've had questions for myself, like, yo, like people are struggling to like buy food and like toilet paper. Does someone need $100 vintage T-shirt from me? Like, are you an asshole for like even putting that on the website? Like, and I had to really get out of my own way because obviously, like, I feel for the people who have been affected by COVID, and so like I said, I was like, should I be doing something else? Should I be like making things for people to take care of themselves? And someone just told me that they said, you know, for what it's worth, the small little backtrack brand that I built, people enjoy, and they enjoy the things that we offer, and they enjoy the things that we've made. We've started making backtrack branded merch and stuff. Um, and so if somebody, let's say, who is out there, who's like a frontline worker or who is depressed because they've been stuck in the house, and they can have a little bit of escapism by shopping with us or shopping with somebody else, that is a benefit, and it is, a positive thing for people. So that really kind of helped me change my perspective, because for a little while, I just felt like I was like, man, like it's so selfish for me to just be like running a non-essential business, because
Right.
like
Yeah.
nobody needs a t-shirt from me, you
Right.
know. But well, when they said that, they're like, people get joy from like shopping with their favorite brand or their favorite boutique, and if you're that to somebody, then that's a win, and that's a little positive moment in somebody's life. So that really helped me, um you know not, like I said, never feel like I was going to give up, but it kind of just helped me to kind of push through and have the confidence to keep doing what I was doing.
Gotcha.
So, what kind of like vintage do you focus on now? Because I know, like, does it differ from before COVID, where like you could go with the risks and everything, or is there like a specific like niche you have going on now?
Yeah, so that's kind of like two questions, and I'll break them up. I'll say that you know the items that we've always sold via Backtrack have always been a direct reflection of my interests and my tastes. Um, I think that's natural, right? Like
Yeah.
I own the brand, so like I'm curating the things that we're offering, and so subconsciously that means like a lot of like sports stuff, a lot of TV show things from the 90's. So things that you really won't see from me are like, I don't sell a lot of like vintage like rock tees, rock and roll tees. I don't sell a lot of vintage, um, like
Like the
racing or
NASCARs and
things
stuff.
like that. Yeah, because I'm just not really drawn to those things when I'm out and about. And I try to like, the things I try to focus like, if I would wear it, I'll sell it. If I'm
Right.
not, if I would never wear something, like I wouldn't feel right selling it to people. That's just me. And I've been able to kind of keep a very specific, like I said, sports and cartoons and TV shows and stuff like that. But one of the things I also like too is like, I like basics from the 90's. So we sell a lot of like vintage Nike crew necks. They just have the small little swoosh. And now, again, thanks to Travis Scott, those have not only the price has gone up for what you can ask for one of those crew necks or sweatshirts, but the price has also skyrocketed on sourcing, and kind of sourcing in general has become a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Before COVID, we had like a really good network of people that would one come sell to us. So I wasn't spending all days in the thrift store because, one, I could literally spend 8 hours a day. There's so many thrift stores here going from thrift to thrift. The problem with that is like, I feel like a better use of my time is on other things as opposed to just spending hours on end in a thrift store. So we really utilized sellers that would come in to sell to us, and then also on the weekends I would source at the swap meets in the thrift stores. But since COVID happened, the guys or the gals that would sell to me, who would spend all day in the thrift store and get a garment for $1 to $2, sell it to me for $10 to $15, like that's a big markup on your money.
Right.
But once thrift store shut down and now their initial way to source kind of stopped, well, then they stopped being like, well, I'm going to sell it to, Backtrack for 15 when I know he's going to turn around and sell it for 35, 40. I'll just start my own little shop, or I'll just put it on my Instagram for what they would sell it for. So it kind of created this like, sourcing stalemate, if you would, where like for vintage sellers, the most important thing right now is inventory and having inventory coming in.
Right.
So the people that were usually, selling to other vintage shops, they're like, oh, like I want more for this because one, it's supply and demand, right? There's less of them. The amount of stores that are open are continuing to either open and close. So it's caused, I feel like, the vintage, pricing market to go up in general. So it's been, challenging because we've been able to kind of pivot. We go up to LA and we go to these places. They're called like rag houses. Essentially, they're just these big giant warehouses full of like vintage. And you have to be like a legitimate business to go there. So you have to provide like, your seller's permit, your business ID from the state, and your forms from the IRS. But it allows you to, spend a couple of hours and get things in bulk for the shop. So we've been able to do that. And then just another way that we've kind of pivoted in the back end of 2020 is like we've started to do, Backtrack branded merch. And so crew necks, and then we just dropped our pins literally yesterday. Those just hit the website, and just being able to, I'm looking at brands like Round Two, and I'm like, like obviously they have like dope vintage and they've got these dope stores, but then they're doing all this Round Two merch, and they've got collabs with like Mercedes, and they're doing collections that drop. And I'm like, it's just really smart to be able to kind of fill in the gaps of your business and what you can offer. And so that's what we just kind of been doing. And it's been great, man. We're just trying to stay creative and just keep afloat, as how long this might, last, or however long it's going to last for. We just want to be able to kind of ride the wave.
Right, I got you. So one thing you haven't mentioned yet that some might not know is about your pins that you sell too. Where's all of that come into play with like the vintage clothing in the stores? Is it just like another thing that you were always interested in, and so you're like, let me see how who else likes it?
Yeah, I've always loved like pins and more so like vintage pins, for example. True story. Like before I was gonna start like Backtrack as far as like a vintage company, I had a crazy massive like vintage pin collection. And so I registered like a domain name that was called like
If you don't say
vintage
pinheads, I'm gonna be upset.
Say again?
If you don't say you're gonna name it pinheads, I'm gonna be upset.
Oh, I was gonna call it something stupid like vintage pin or like pin vintage or like something like that. Um, because I was like, I'll just sell pins. But I put down the back burner and I was like, when I started the website, I wanted to be able to have a good offering. So obviously we sell like, tops, wear t-shirts, crew necks and jackets, and
Yeah.
we sell hats as well. But like, pins are really fun and they're really collectible. And depending on what they are, you know, you can make some decent money on a pin. And so, which is why we just dropped, a pin version of our bus logo is because pins have been a big, part of our business. And we're one of the very few vintage brands that like sells vintage pins, and we've done like actual patches and pins events where we've taken the bus and we filled the bus with pins, and people can come and like buy, sell, and trade their pins for our vintage pins. And I think they're just fun. They're like, you can wear them with so many different things. Obviously, like on a jacket, on a hat, if you got a little sling bag and things like that. But I've kind of always been into pins, and I think it goes back from, I was raised a Chicago Cubs fan, but growing up in San Diego, we would go to like, the ballpark and go to ball games. And whenever the Cubs were in town, we'd always go to the ballpark. And I would always see these like old dudes with like either like these like pins all like on a lanyard or like they have a hat and it'd be full of like all these pins throughout the years. Um, and to kind of see like pins come back up, obviously with brands like Pin Trill, they kind of, are killing it. But like big stores like Urban Outfitters selling pins, and
Yeah.
I think they're just fun, and there's a lot of people who are into them, and so it's just another way for people to discover Backtrack and experience Backtrack without having to, drop $50 on a T-shirt. You can spend $12 on a pin, and it's a
Get
fun
the
little
same
conversation
experience.
starter for you to have. But I've got freaking bins of just pins all around here, and it's fun. It's just another way to like offer another product and be different than I think there's so many people that sell vintage, and I think
Yeah.
there's so many different things that you can get into, and I think pins are for sure a way that we kind of differentiate ourselves from other vintage brands that are out there.
No, I think it's cool, man. Like whenever I bought that jacket from you, like and Taylor, or I saw like the pins, I was like, oh, I'm not really a pin guy. And then you sent me that Michael Jordan one. I was like, this is actually pretty hard. Like this is, I like this. Like I still got it sits on my nightstand. I was like, I like it. It's cool. Like you said,
That's what I
it's just
remember.
like fun.
That came
Yeah.
from that came from the upper deck set. So like obviously there's pins in like all different shapes of form. But like a lot of times too, like they used to send out like commemorative sets.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that like they got to keep the pin set together or it like loses value. But a lot of times there's like one fire pin in the pack. And so I got no qualms. I'll open it up and I'll like sell them, as they are. But I think another reason too, like why, um, as I've been on the journey as far as like vintage goes, I've learned more about the vintage pin world, and it's pretty crazy. The largest pin manufacturer was here in San Diego, and it's called Peter David. I would say if you flip over 90% of any of your sports pins that you have that are from early 2000s, 90's, and prior,
Hmm.
you flip it over, it says Peter David, and it'll say San Diego. And over in like there's like an industrial area of San Diego, and he used to have this big, huge factory, and he had every license you can think of. So it was NBA, NFL, MLB, but he would also do like the one-off pins for like individuals. So like Michael Jordan, Bo Jackson, stuff like that. And as I've dug through like old sporting goods and sport card places here in San Diego, I always find like these fire pins, and there's because they were made literally right here. No matter where they got sent out to, they pretty much started right here. And that business closed down in like I think 2005, 2006. So there's no way to even get those pins again. So like they're really not in production anymore, and you can't find them. And that kind of like adds to the allure of like, yo, you should buy this because you're probably never gonna see this again.
What's like the most valuable pin you probably like come across?
Uh,
Because I'm assuming some of them can get up like pretty big, like pretty expensive, like rarity or just it's like a manufacturer like default that makes them more
So
valuable.
so like in the sport world, obviously like icons matter. So your MJs, your like I said, your Bo Jacksons, your Ken Griffey Juniors, um, those fetch a number. Kobe pins recently, obviously. Um, and that's going back to like the beginning of the conversation where like vintage is like the stock market. Nobody really cared about Kobe Bryant stuff in 2019. I'm
Yeah.
like, cool, that's a Kobe shirt, cool. And then tragically he passes away, and now the market for it skyrockets. And like, go ahead, go on eBay and try to find vintage Kobe Bryant pins for like under $50. Like you're not, you just won't. And so it's crazy. I think for me, the probably like the craziest pins I found, they have to do with like retro gaming. So like one month I had sourced like this big bundle that I had bought on eBay, and in there was like this Nintendo Game Boy pin from like the like original Game Boy drop. There was like Sonic the Hedgehog. It had Sonic and Tails on it from like Sonic 2 when that dropped. People who are like really big into like video game collecting, they go kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So you can pretty much just name your price. But again, I think that comes with too, like, and the same thing with like knowing, how much a shirt is worth. It's just knowing the vintage pin market, if you will, too, is like what people want.
Bless you.
Excuse me, what they don't want, and again, it's like the value and condition too. So it all matters and it all plays its part. But like too, I think one of the things we do that we offer like a little bit of an elevated experience, because I was like, well, we sell a lot of pins, and like, sure, I could just throw them in the package, but I was like, well, I just don't like how that's presented in packaging.
Right.
Is like a really big important thing to me with my business. And so I went ahead and I found like a pin backing manufacturer. So, when you get a pin from us, it's proper. You want to feel like when you're getting something, whether you're buying something that's 30 years old, you still want to feel like you're opening that up. If you buy something from Nike and like you bought a shirt and like they just threw it in the envelope and you just got it, you would feel weird. So like
Right.
we even try to make sure that everything is an experience. When you get something from us, you get to open it up. You get a pin from us, you can take it off of the back and like enjoy like the process of buying something. And it's a small step that we do, but I think it really matters as far as like customer retention and kind of separating us from other people that sell vintage.
Right. It makes it more of an experience, like psychologically, like they're more like, let me go back. Like this place is an actual business, not just a guy in a random warehouse who's like giving me the shirt on the back.
Yeah, I mean, and nothing wrong to the people that I have businesses like that, but you know, for me, I was like, everything that we do, even down to the packaging, I want to be impactful and I want it to be intentional. And so, yeah, that's why I take the time when we do like special projects, or we have special events go on where we do like a special poly mailer, or we do, when we send out vintage hats, we make sure that we send it out in a box that's sturdy, that's not gonna have your hat come to you all crumpled up. Because if you bought something from Lids online, they would never send it in like an envelope. They would send it in a freaking box. And so I'm a firm believer, like, if you can't afford to buy the proper packaging to send it out to your customer, then you shouldn't sell it. If you don't want to spend the $24 on 50 boxes, 50 hat boxes from Amazon, so that way your hat that you sell can get to your customer like damage free, then you shouldn't sell hats. If you can't, send somebody something that's gonna get there and be the way that it should, you're better off not selling it, because the damage that you can do by sending somebody something that arrives there all jacked up is far more like damaging to your business and to your brand than the small investment is going to cost you. I mean, yeah, so I'm a big fan of sending things like the way that they should get there, and making the customer happy, because without people deciding they're going to shop on Backtrack or shop on the bus, like I don't have a business. So my customer is the most important thing.
Is that something you like learned through the process, or did you go into it knowing I want to be like grade A customer satisfaction and like make sure everything is like neat and organized?
I knew from before I even, started, because even back when I had the barbershop years ago, um, I knew customer service and like satisfaction is a big thing because, you know, when you don't really remember, you might, you can remember like when you have, um, you may not remember when you've had great customer service or good
Yeah.
customer service or even decent customer service, but you for sure remember when you've had crappy customer service, right? Like
Right.
whether it was at a store or a restaurant, like, and then what do? Oh, dude, so I'm in Foot Locker the other day.
Right,
I can't
right.
get anybody. Like you remember that, and then you talk to people about that, right? So like that was important to me that like every person that we treat, we want to treat, the same. Like whether if I have interns working for me when we're at events, and I just try to like, look, we just got to be cool to people, and a lot of times like people don't know why a shirt is $60. And it's
Right.
our job to educate them in a non-douche way, like why something is a certain price. You're never cooler than anybody that comes on the bus. You know what I'm saying? Like just there's so many people that I think get into vintage, or they start a business or they start selling at like swap meets and flea markets, and they become like too cool for school. Like they're so cool, they can't be bothered. They got a bad attitude. They're like really standoffish. You
Yeah,
ask
I
them a
met a few
question, they
guys
give
like
you an
that.
answer with attitude, and I was just there's got to be another way. Like, and so I just decided that I was just gonna be different from the standpoint of like, you know, everybody matters. Whether they're
Yeah.
shopping with us for their first time or they're shopping with us for their 30th time, I want to treat everybody the same. And I just, I want to do my part. And that's carried over into the online side of things as well. We don't really offer returns. Um, but with that being said, like, I don't want anybody to be stuck with a garment that one doesn't fit them right or they just don't love. So on a case by case basis, if something gets to you and it's not, right, or just is it's wrong, send us an email through the form on our website and we'll take your return. We'll give you a full refund or we'll give you a credit for a future purchase because studies show that offering returns and having good customer service on that end doesn't increase the amount of returns that you get. I,
Right.
I don't know, like for me, I can't stand when like I land on somebody's like vintage page and like they've communicated no like 3 or 4 times before you've even got to their feed. What I mean by that is you're on somebody's Instagram, you got their profile photo, and then underneath it'll be like the hottest vintage around, and then underneath it'll be like no returns, all sales final,
Yeah,
must
yeah,
keep,
yeah.
blah 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 blah. And like that's such a bummer because you're already communicating to a customer or a potential customer, because everybody who discovers you is a potential customer. You're already communicating to them that one, you're not flexible. Two, like, man, like, okay, I better do this right, or like I'm gonna be screwed out of my money, or I'm gonna be
Yeah.
screwed out of this. And so like that's like those are like store policies. Like they should live in like a store policy section of like your website. Like you're not gonna go on like Nike's homepage and like find like the shipping policy or
Hottest gear
return policy.
around. No
Like,
returns.
yeah, you
No.
gotta scroll all the way down, like go to the bottom and like click on like policies, and then you get this full detailed thing. But like people, I don't know why they have it like backwards, where they're like, I'm gonna tell them everything we don't do before they even get to our feed to see what we have.
Which is
And I
like
would be like,
which is hurting them because it's like people are always gonna be hesitant to buy something, you know. Like what
right,
if,
like
you know?
it's gonna be like it's gonna be a headache trying to buy, this Betty Boop T-shirt, and like I
Right.
just want it for my girl, or I want it for my grandma, or whatever it may be. So I think if people can make that switch, they would, it would just be positive because, again, like I don't, I don't think anybody like intentionally sets out to make that wrong move, but like you're 100% communicating no
Yeah.
right out the jump.
Right. You hear that, guys? If you want great customer service, great customer care, shop at Backtrack SD.
And just to be clear, the jacket I bought from him, I knew the size, I grew out of it, but I'm just too stubborn to let it go. Like, I want it, I make it work.
I'll take it.
Nah, I just told you, I'm too stubborn to let it go. I'm making it work. Like you just heard, I'm gonna layer it. It might be 90 degrees, but I'm gonna layer it.
Yeah, you're gonna make it work. I feel you, man. Okay. I ain't mad at you.
Do what?
Just sweating.
Exactly. Like, it's just gonna be like this stuff is just so hot. Like that's why I'm sweating. It's not the 90-degree weather. It's just the hottest vintage around. That's what it is. So you've talked about like going forward, it's gonna be a lot different because people are trying to like do their own vintage sales like on Instagrams now, which is a big difference. Like I tried to resell sneakers one time. Didn't work because even though I was getting that inventory, one, I don't have the customers that like a little bit bigger places have, like any other, like I don't have the reputation, and like I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew, okay, I have the sneakers, like how can I get these, like, and I could sell them for what bigger places sell, but nobody's gonna want to buy that because it's gonna look either fishy or it's not gonna have the same return that they have. And so going forward, do you think you're gonna start going back to doing your own like thrifting, or are you just gonna just keep on with the sources you have?
Well, I think we're going to continue to source the way we have been sourcing because, like I said, there's a lot of competition here in San Diego, so everybody sources from the same places, so everybody's inventory looks the same. And so, like, I didn't start a brand and a business to just sell what everybody else was selling. So I like that I'll venture out. I'll take a road trip. I'll get on a plane and go shop somebody's like big inventory, whether it's in San Francisco or whatever it may be. So I think we'll continue down that path. But you're so right about I think a lot of people, they start out saying, okay, I'm going to sell on Instagram, like, because it's easy and it's accessible. The problem with that, and I think we saw, like, even just with this past week with Instagram's new rollout, where, like, if your phone updated, you have that Instagram shop button right on your Instagram homepage, like, now, because Instagram is saying, like, we're not dumb. We know whether it's vintage, whether it's sneakers, whether it's, women's, inventory, people are using our platform to sell, and we're not making any money from that.
Yeah.
And so my prediction is that, like, in the same way that, like, you wouldn't be able to, like, go on to, like, eBay and, like, poach customers, or, like, go on to Depop and, like, send them to other platforms. I think Instagram is going to get to the point that everybody who's selling through Instagram, I don't think you're going to be able to do that anymore. I don't think people are going to be able to, like, post a t-shirt and then people be like, oh, I'm going to DM them and make the transaction, send them the Venmo, send them, the PayPal or whatever, and make my purchase. I think Instagram is going to start flagging those, and I think that they're going to make you register. If you're going to try to do business via the platform, they're going to make you register so that way they can get their cut, right? Like, at the end of the day, Instagram's free. So people complain all the time about, like, oh, they're turning Instagram into, like, this marketplace. How dare you? It's free. Like, so you don't have to give them a dime to start an Instagram account. So they get to decide what their page looks like or what the platform looks like. That's why it was that's why it was super important for me when we started to do the website build out, was because, when people shop with us, you got to enter your email to complete the purchase. When you get to do that, whether you're shopping with Nike or Urban Outfitters or whoever it may be, because these companies have realized that that's the most important thing to stay in touch with, your consumer.
Yeah.
If Instagram decides to shut down tomorrow, one, that would suck. Like, I would be upset. But at the end of the day, like, I've built out a nice little, like, email list and network of people that, like, love the brand and shop from us, and I would still have a way to reach out to those people. A lot of these accounts, if Instagram shut down today, they don't have a website, they have no way to get in contact with these people. What, your business is just gone because you are so dependent on this one platform? And so, I'm a big fan of Instagram being a tool, not the only tool, because when it's something that you don't own, it's out of your control at the end of the day. You know, you really don't have any power in the situation. But my prediction is that Instagram is gonna, everybody who's selling via Instagram, enjoy it, because I think it's gonna go away, without you making a proper Instagram shop page, a business profile, when you throw your items in through their system to make the transaction through Instagram. It's going to make sense,
Yeah.
with the direction that it's going. They added Facebook Shop a few years ago because people were doing the same thing, right? Like people were buying and selling things via, the news feed, and they were like, oh no, we'll make this a section and then we'll take a cut, from these sales that happen, because you're using our platform for free to make money. You got to pay the piper, so to speak.
Right.
Right.
I
I
got you.
got you.
So, what do you think is probably the scariest part of being a vintage reseller, and not just like during like COVID times, but like just during like in general? Like, what's like the scariest part about that?
The scariest thing. Um, Probably, you know, the, the market is just really like uncertain, and like
Yeah.
going again back to like things hold value and lose value based off of like what's hot and what's not. You know what I'm saying? Like people 3 years ago, could sell a R. Kelly t-shirt for like $300. Now, if you got an R. Kelly t-shirt in your inventory, you look like, bro, for real? Like you have this R.
Probably
Kelly
smell
t-shirt in
bad
here? What,
too.
what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Um, I think for me, like the thing that scares me the most is that when somebody has a bad experience with a specific, vintage reseller, they assume that that's how every vintage seller is, right? Like it makes sense. If you had a bad experience with like, you know, I don't know, a coach, you would start to form this opinion about other coaches that were negative, and I think that's what happens a lot of times. So because people have traditionally had bad experiences with other vintage brands, um, we just try to make sure that we go above. We try to like. I don't want to be the Chick-fil-A of like vintage, but I just want people to like have a really, really good experience. And I think the thing that scares me the most, whether if it was vintage or another business, is the thing that would scare me the most is just, you know, not being able to correct a mistake. Like if we had it with a customer,
Right.
if they decided to blow us up on social or on Google or whatever it may be, is that I always want to be able to make a situation right. Thankfully, we haven't had many situations like that. But that's probably what scares me the most. I think, but that's with anybody who has any type of business. Um, and yeah, I mean, of course, there's like financial risks, whether it's dumping your money into a school bus or getting a storefront. Um, but I think I don't really have a lot of things that scare me. I think I manage it well, the stress of being a business owner and the stress of dealing with it, during COVID. And I think that's all you can do is like try to tackle every day as a new day. And I try not to think too far into the future. Of course, we have things on our schedule that are pre-planned out as far as like collections and projects and pop-ups that we have scheduled throughout the year. Um, but I just try to tackle the things and control the things that I can control. And, I just try to worry about myself, so to
Yeah.
speak.
I got you. You have any certain like companies or people that you are like really wanting to like collab with or do anything besides Young and Hungry?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I would love to do a collaboration with like a sneaker company.
Yeah.
Um, I think Nike has so many things on their plate that I think that would be out of reach at the moment. But I'm a big fan of like Reebok and New Balance and stuff like that. And as a kid, like just from a price point, I think I had more Reeboks growing up than I did Nikes.
They're starting to come back now, dude. They got some real like heat coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I was a dorky kid, like playing pickup games, like they pick pickup games, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. And I'd like be real dramatic about it. I'd be like, hold up,
Oh man.
That's how you know it's getting serious. It's getting pumped.
dude. Like the pump is like so like ingrained in my childhood and my psyche of it. I would love to do a pump. They have so many different like variations of the pump that they did. Um, that would it would be dope to do a collab with Reebok or like I said, New Balance. They just have like some of the most comfortable shoes around.
Yeah.
Um, but then like we've got a couple of projects coming up. I can't delve into it too much.
Right.
But in the past, we still to this day have our collaborative partnership with Topo Chico Mineral Water. So whenever we do events and it's really, really hot, they come out and they give everybody that shops with us like free drinks. And we've done when we did that Patches and Pins event, we collabed when we dropped this exclusive like Topo Chico, bottle pin and a patch. So that was really, really fun. Um, that's the thing that I just try to do differently. As a vintage brand, I just try to run the company and the brand as a brand, which
Right.
means like doing, fun projects every so often. And it's not just like, okay, it's another event. We're gonna do another event, like fun projects that like may not even make sense from like we're gonna make a ton of money by doing this, but like it's fun. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it's okay. Like when football, the first week of football started, we dropped the massive NFL collection. It was 32 pieces from every single team in the NFL, and I had my friends over. I shot them in the living room. I set up a backdrop, and like that like didn't make me a ton of money, but it was so fun. It was so fun to like NFL was back. We were wondering if football was going to be back.
Yeah.
We dropped the collection. People bought way more than I thought they would, and like we still have a few of those pieces in our online store today. And I don't look at it from a standpoint of like, oh, it didn't sell out, like it was a bust. But I look at it like that allowed me to like have fun. I got to shoot my friends, and we got to set things up, and we did really cool packaging. Like the poly bags from the NFL collection was we flipped the Madden 96 cover. And so instead of saying like Madden 96, it said like Backtrack 96, and like we added a bunch of things and changed, did a little flip on that. And like that's fun for me, like for my sanity to be able to like continue to like recharge and have fun and having a brand is I got to do
Right.
fun projects like that ever so often. But yeah, I mean Reebok, if y'all want to send a DM, I'm open. I'd love to dig through the archives. That would be a dream to do a sneaker collab.
Dude, I think my favorite Reebok I've seen is the one they did with Bape, where it's like that camo, like that green camo, and it's the push too. Like, if
And like, cause they have so like outside of the pump, you know, I grew up watching Allen Iverson. Like the questions, like they're so dope, and the answers and stuff like that. The Sean Kemp's and like but I think before Reebok really popped, like they were like the dominator in the market when it came to cross training, fitness, and even basketball. There's a really old Reebok pump commercial with Dennis Rodman while he's still on the Pistons before he got his Converse deal, where like they had some big name athletes like that
yeah,
were attached to the brand too. So don't sleep on Reebok.
who is it on? You ever seen that show on YouTube? It's like a full size run. Yeah, that where it's like Boktober and everything for them. Like he's running with the Reeboks. Dude, like I said, like you're right. You can't sleep on Reeboks. Like I don't have any in my collection right now, but that's because I want those Bape camo Reeboks push like pumps so bad. Like that's what I want. Like my first like Reebok like coming back to be.
I know. I like I'm a huge fan of like the hundreds. And years ago, they did the Reebok pump collab where they did the three colorways. It was an all suede pump. It looked so good, and like the one pump on the tongue, they turned into like their bomb logo as opposed to the basketball.
Yeah,
And like it looks so good. And I think they're obviously like they're one of those legacy brands that I pray that they continue to stay around. And, they were acquired by Adidas a few years back, and now Adidas is allegedly shopping them around to sell them. And, I hope they don't, go away, because they mean a lot. And I think they do have, this,
Something to offer still.
yeah, I mean, like, they just dropped the Cardi B shoe literally 2 days ago, and it sold out not only on their website, but it sold out everywhere they stocked it. It was like Macy's, Nordstrom's.
Yeah.
So like I think they're on the right track as far as they're about to release. If you watch the show Hot Ones on Complex, they're about to release the Reebok. I think it's the CL500, or the CL like 5 Reebok Hot Ones, where it's like the Hot Ones logo is on the toe, and it's like an off-white shoe. And I'm like,
dude, I'm gonna have to get that one. I need to get that now. I didn't know that they were doing that.
If you go to their website, there's like a tab that says like upcoming. You can see the ones that are about to drop. Like, dope. It's dope. I would like to do, one that we like theme, with like the bus. I'd like to like do the insole and like have the insole have like, like a map of like the San Diego bus routes, like on the insoles. And I got some ideas.
What you gotta do is you gotta get like something designed and like send that to them, be like, hey, let's get it going, like make it so they can't resist it.
Instead of it being like an orange basketball, I would want to make it like black, like the tires on the bus. So you pump the tires up, on the on the bus like that. That's like my thought. Plus, our colors. No one has them as like brand colors where it's like, I don't know. It's like a periwinkle. I don't know what to call it. It's like I don't know. I just was like, no one is using these. Everyone's using like these basic colors, and everyone is doing like these logo flips. And so that's why it was important that when we designed the bus logo, that one, I wanted to turn the school bus into its own character, but I also wanted the branding to be original and the name to be original, because I think there comes a point where it's like, if you do grow, which is the goal of starting something, right, and you use somebody else's logo, even if it was the logo flip, and it's a normal streetwear thing, you're gonna get a cease and desist letter if you're making noise, right? Like, right. I think perfect example is like my buddy Chris from the 1980 something co. Brand on he runs on Instagram. He also has a website as well. But for years he used he did like a logo flip of the old Guess logo, like the triangle.
Yeah.
And when he started to like get into like the 15K, 20K, realm, he actually sent he screenshotted the conversation and put it on a story that he got a DM from Guess, like verified page that was like, you need to stop using this, branding. This is a registered trademark. If you don't, we'll start legal, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, sorry. And that's tough, right? If you've built, your whole identity on something that like wasn't even yours to begin with. So, that's what I want to see more of in back into 2020, moving into 2021. That if you're going to start a brand, even if you're selling vintage, like be creative.
Be
like, of course, it's easy to be like, we're just going to flip an old logo, but like, it's a lot harder, but it's a lot more worth it, I think, to create something that's new and original. It's actually yours. You don't have to worry about like, am I going to get in trouble because?
Right.
Listen up, guys. This free game right here he giving y'all, man. If y'all want to start your own business, he's telling y'all.
Yeah, be original.
Yeah, that's it.
Like us. That came from my mind. I didn't design it, though. I did like a really like crappy design and just said, hey, I want a bitten dollar with him looking at it. And I sent her like this. I still have like the picture I drew, and I'm surprised she just wasn't like, what the hell is this? Like, what child designed this? Like, thank you.
Every time I see it, I'm like, bro, how you came up with it?
I just got them visions. I got them visions. So now we're going to jump into the money round, which is the more the same questions most of the time. And it's just kind of more detailed. We just kind of go with it. So number one, what do you consider success? Like, what is success to you?
Like, absent from like money, and I know it sounds cliche where it's like, money doesn't matter. And like, that's kind of BS, but it's kind of true. Like, if you go to a job that you really don't like, but it pays well, like, you're just like giving your soul away. You know what I'm saying? Like, so success to me is like being able to wake up and do what I enjoy to do. And for me, that's like working for myself. But that doesn't mean that like for somebody else, if they like going to a job where they have a boss and they've got things to do, but they love it, like then that's success to them. And so for me, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, it's being able to enjoy what you do, whether it's working for yourself or working for somebody else. You owe it to yourself
Right.
because you're going to end up hating life, hating yourself. Then you're going to be mad at yourself because you're going to work at a job for 15 years. Then you're going to be like 60. And then you're going to be like, man, I wish I would have did this, or I wish I would have tried that, or I wish I would have went back to school. And so for me, I was like, I'd rather it be a oops than a what if. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I can always go and try to start something else and always have like other skills and things to fall back on. But I won't be able to like I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I was like an old man and I was like, man, I wish I just would have tried. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I feel successful.
Awesome. Second thing is, what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody starting out in vintage?
Start building your website as soon as you can. And what I mean by that is like obviously there's lots of different ways we talked about them before, like how to start selling digitally, whether that's through Instagram, and of course there's sites like Depop and Grailed and Poshmark, and those are great tools, especially if you're just starting out. But the problem with again with those, they're all the same. Where one, you don't own any of your customers' information. Those platforms owns your customer. So when
Right.
you make a sale through Depop, and yeah, that's great. One, they're taking the fee that it costs to list the item, but two, they also have all the information on the customer. You don't, and then they penalize you if you try to say, well, go to my website or let's make this transaction happen a different way. You'll actually like be like kicked off the platform. And there's a reason for that because they know that the most important thing is the customer and it's
Right.
their customer information. So it's a journey to go on to start to build out your website. But I think it's so important because, like we said, if all those sites disappear tomorrow and you've got nothing to show for your business that you may have been in for 2 or 3 years, that's going to be far more depressing and soul crushing than if you had already had started to build up a clientele and a customer list. So that's my biggest advice is one, know the market, but two, if you're going to start selling digitally, make the hard decision to start doing it via a website that you control your actual customer base that's shopping with you.
Right. So the third one is, what keeps you going? Like what is like you wake up in the morning saying got to grind out today? Like what is that like for you?
Of working for yourself is that like there's no set schedule, so to speak, and I'm a little bit of a night owl. you know um I don't feel very productive in the mornings. I don't like I can make a cup of coffee and like sit down at my laptop to do things like whether it's like inventory or do process, shipping for orders. But I become the most creative in the afternoons, and I get really excited about things that we're working on, in the future. Like for example, like we dropped the pins yesterday,
Yeah.
and you know I when we dropped them, I wasn't really happy because like we had been leading up to selling them because I had to find a place to make them. I had to design them, had to get proofs sent off, had to get samples approved. Then they had to go into production. Then once they were produced, then they had got sent to the facilitator to ship them out. So by the time that they got to me, and then I had to photograph them, I had to get them set up for the website. I was like already over them. Like I'm like,
Right.
like so by the time like an item like that actually drops, or we do like a big old collection, I'm already thinking about the next thing. And I think that's what keeps me motivated every day is working on the next project and the projects that are you know coming up. And my girl would say that I need to enjoy the moment more because I'm always thinking about the next thing. um but like I do, like I'm excited. We're doing a collection that I'm excited for in February. That we've got a couple of we're doing like a vintage collection that's also going to drop alongside of it, like some branded merch pieces, some Backtrack items, and I'm really excited about that. And that's all I can focus on for a time being. But what'll happen is the week leading up to that drop, I'll have already been on to, what we're doing next, because I think like if you stop and you sit around and you think about like, okay, like this is really, really cool, you can kind of get caught like just standing still. And I'm just always trying to continue to move forward. Right. It doesn't have to be some huge like leaps and bounds, but even just small steps forwards are still steps forward.
Right. You like getting ready for the next big thing.
Yeah. I mean, not even the next big thing, but just the next thing is right. That like, I think it's really easy to like look back, and we've been really, really blessed that like when we launched the bus, like we had a lot of press. Everybody wanted to talk about this cool school bus, that was driving around town full of vintage. And, that hasn't really been the story for us in 2020 because of COVID, and we've just been trying to continue to go on to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. So like, I feel like it's okay to like look back in of the things that you've done, but I feel like, every time you do that, it kind of takes away from what you can be doing as far as moving forward and working on new projects and meeting new people to collaborate with and share ideas with. So right. Just trying to move forward, man.
I gotcha. Eric, thank you so much for coming on today. Please let everybody know where they can find you, because I know your Instagram's what, Backtrack SD? .sd.
It's just super simple. It's just shopbacktrack.com. And, the Instagram is kind of like evolved, where like before we used to just post like every single thing that we get, into the shop. And that was cool. But like every vintage account does that. And so as of lately, I've kind of just been sharing like my own personal mood board, like images that I like and I think about when it comes to like the aesthetic of the brand and right. Kind of look and the feel of new things. So if you want to, kind of look at a little inside window into like our process and kind of the vibe that we are, then Instagram is like the best way to discover us. So yeah, backtrack.sd on Instagram.
I noticed that today, I had one on the Instagram today and I saw the feed and I was like, that's pretty dope, man. Like it's different from like a lot of other vintage Instagrams I see. So I mess with it, man.
So y'all go out there, like I said, if he drops something that you like, most likely 20,000 other people like it, so you got to get it today.
No, for real.
Don't be like me and Omari. Don't wait too long, and then you're sad for a week.
Right.
All right, go get it today.
Then you got to meal prep to get back in, to the jacket.
It's not all right. So he's calling me fat. That's cool. I meant I grew. Like my arms got bigger, Eric. Like I got taller. Not as short anymore, but it's okay. Still keeping the jacket though. Layers.
It happens to all of us. My sweatshirt started feeling a little snug, and then I guess I'm putting this on the website today because I can't fit it anymore.
All right. But that's it for everything today, guys. Make sure y'all come in next week. Come in and see Eric and his website and his Instagram. Go cop everything that you can. All my pinheads out there, go grab those pins before they're gone. And that's it. I'm Gleason.
I'm Omari.
And this is Eric.
I'm Eric.
See my... All right. Later, guys. What's up, everybody? Whether you're watching our beautiful faces on YouTube
or listening on Spotify,
make sure you guys subscribe, like the video, like the podcast, because it really helps us in the algorithms and making sure that people see us.
Yeah, just share it, because we got some great content coming our way with great guests, so you don't want to miss it.
And guys, we're just trying to build this up. Like, come on, help us, help you, help others. That's what it's all about, right? I know. Yeah, like that. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.